All right, guys, this is it. This is the day we've all been waiting for. The day when we start the reproductive system. So, because it's the reproductive system, it's basically like two different systems because you have the female reproductive system versus the male reproductive system. We are going to start with the female reproductive system. I know that girls are like super complicated in general because like we don't even know what we want, but as far as structures go, the female reproductive system is far, 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 far simpler than the male reproductive system. So, starting with the ovary being the female gonad being the sex organ. Remember, so in females, the gonad is the ovary, and in males, the gonad is the testes. So, ovaries. This is kind of a review. You know that there are two of them. One is on each side of, meaning so lateral to the uterus. So this is the uterus, and this is patient's right ovary. This is patient's left ovary. This one's just cut in half so you can see some things on the inside, about the size of an almond. And each one has thousands of little pockets. So we learned the word follicle when we talked about hairs and all sorts of things. So follicle means a pocket that contains something. So you can kind of think of it like a sack, like a hole, like a bubble, a pocket. And specifically, the ovarian follicles are called Graafian follicles, but I don't really care that you know this word. I just want you to know that every ovary, each ovary has thousands of little pockets, and inside of those pockets is where the egg grows. So, and I'm talking about like lady eggs, not chicken eggs. So the egg is it will be fertilized by a sperm to make a baby. So if we're talking about one egg, we call it an ovum. If we're talking about lots of eggs, then we call them ova. Ova is plural. So ova, the egg, is the female gamete, gamete being like the sex cell, the reproductive cell. I'm hoping biology is coming back to you right now. So the ovum, the lady egg, is the largest cell in the human body. So quick review of biology. Except for eggs in females and sperm in males, every other cell in your body has 46 chromosomes. So they have 23 pairs. So all of your cells, every single cell except for eggs and sperm, have 46 chromosomes. So 23 pairs, one from mom, one from dad, one from mom, one from dad, one from mom, one from dad. However, gametes, which are your eggs or your sperm, depending on if you are a female or a male, respectively, have 23. So this is because, just so you know, the 23 pairs, 22 are called autosomal, and then you have one sex chromosome, one pair of sex chromosomes. So in a female, it's XX, and in a male, it's XY. We have to have 23 chromosomes in an egg and 23 chromosomes in a sperm, because when Mr. Sperm meets Mrs. Egg, they need to combine to make that normal 46. So if eggs had 46 and sperm had 46, then when egg and sperm unite, that would be 26 plus 46 plus 92 question mark 92 chromosomes, and that's way too many chromosomes, and the baby would never be made. It would spontaneously abort. You would have a spontaneous miscarriage because it would not be compatible with life. So the sperm has 23 and the egg, the ova, has 23, so that when they combine, it makes the normal 46. So instead of just 23, you get 23 pairs, one from mom, one from dad, one from mom, one from dad, and that's the total 46, and that's what it makes to make a baby. Again, what makes a female versus male? Talking about sex here, not gender. Gender is a whole different thing, but sex, X and X would be female. So mom gave you an X and dad gave you an X. That's a female. If you're a male, mom gave you an X. Mom has to give an X. That's all she has because she's XX. And then dad gave you the Y, and that means male. Okay, so moving on from the ovaries, you have these things called fallopian tubes. So this is a fallopian tube, and this is a fallopian tube. So this curriculum also calls them oviducts or uterine tube. Ew, and this is weird. I've never heard it called an oviduct before, but this curriculum, there's like a test question where it's like fallopian tube are also known as, and it's oviduct. I don't care that you know how long they are. So this makes it look like it's like eating or grabbing the ovary. It doesn't actually touch. It's not actually attached to the ovaries. These little things kind of like float around like, I don't know, like imagine like putting a mop into a bucket of water and how like the little strands of the mop would like float around. They kind of float around. In fact, only one of them is even long enough to touch the ovary. Each one of these little finger-like projections, the little strands on the mop or whatever we call fimbriae. Um, Again, there's tons of them, and they're not actually eating the ovary, kind of like how it looks here. This kind of shows them better. See how it kind of looks like a mop there? So, all right, so then we have the uterus. So, ovary, fallopian tube, uterus. We'll talk about this in a second. Don't look at that. Uterus is a hollow, it's empty on the inside. That's how a baby grows there. Thick walled, it's very, very thick muscle, and it's pear shaped, kind of like an upside down pear. It's behind the bladder and in front of the rectum. So you would have like if a person's looking this way and you're looking at them from the side, there would be the bladder, then there would be the uterus, and then behind that would be the rectum. It's divided into 3 sections and then 3 layers. So like top, middle, bottom section, and then outside, middle, inside section. We'll talk about those names on the next slide. Here, now we'll look at this sad puppy. So these white things would be the ovaries. This tube that you're seeing on each side is the fallopian tube, and then this would be the uterus. So this is like we've cut into a person's abdomen and we're looking down at the uterus right here. So this that you're seeing would be looking down at this top part right here called the fundus, and that's what we're going to talk about now. So actually, if you remember the stomach, you had the fundus, the body, and then the pylorus and the stomach. These are very similarly named. The top bulgy part is still called the fundus. Most of it here is called the body, but the bottom part is super famous and very important. So the bottom inch or so of the uterus is called the cervix. It's very important to remember that the cervix is still just part of the uterus. It's so famous and so important that a lot of times we talk about the cervix like it was its own organ, but it's not. It's just the bottom inch or so of the uterus. So bottom section that has a narrow opening. So you can see there's a little hole in it, an opening up to get into the rest of it. And it says it extends down into the vagina. So this right here will be the vaginal canal. This is the vagina. And if you can see, it goes up and it kind of balloons out to join up with barely up into the cervix. So that this is the path that sperm would travel when you're trying to get pregnant, and it would come here, 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 and then it can't go anywhere else. It has to go into this little hole so that it can get up into the uterus. So cervix, again, just bottom part of the uterus, but it's so famous we're going to talk about it like it's its own thing. So again, just this little part right here is the cervix, and this would be like if you were looking intravaginally. So if you inserted a scope into the vaginal canal and you looked at the bottom, this is what you would see. It kind of looks like a pink donut, and I'm really sorry to ruin pink donuts for you. So bottom section of the uterus, this is the same sentence as the last page, narrow opening, extends into the vagina. It's about an inch. So again, it's only about the bottom inch of the uterus. And now we're going to talk about the 3 layers of the uterus. So before we did, top was the fundus, most of it is the body, and then bottom is the uterus. This is going to be like outside, middle, inside. So outside is the perimetrium. Peri goes around. Think like we learned periosteum goes around the outside of the bone. Pericardium is the outside layer of the heart. Perimetrium, metrium's always going to talk about the uterus, is the outer layer. Then, just like in the heart, the myocardium was the thick muscle middle layer of the heart. The myometrium is that thick middle part of the uterus. This is what it's smooth muscle. It's involuntary. It contracts when you're having period cramps. It also contracts very, very hard when you are having a baby. And then the innermost layer is the endometrium. So endocardium was the membrane on the inside of the heart. Endosteum was the inner layer, membrane of the bone. Endometrium is the inner layer of the uterus. So this is just this thin little thing right here that is going to thicken and shed each month. So the endometrium is what we think of as what comes out of a female when she's having her period. All right, so we did ovary, we did fallopian tube, we did the whole uterus, top, middle, bottom being cervix, and outside, middle, inside being endometrium. So only thing left internally now is the vagina. So the vagina is a cavity, sort of. So when we say it's smooth muscle, the walls of it are smooth muscle, but it's a hollow cavity. It's lined with a mucous membrane. 10 centimeters, which I think is like what, 4 inches? 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. Yeah, 4 inches long. Also called the birth canal. This is what the baby comes out of. So baby grows in the uterus and comes out of the vagina. Hymen. So hymen is this membrane that may or may not be present kind of right here at the entrance to, or just a smidgen inside of the vaginal canal. A lot of people had in past classes, they don't understand what the hymen is. So I put a picture. This is a lot of different possibilities for what a hymen would look like. So in this, again, it would be like you were doing a pelvic exam on a female. So like where she's laying down and her legs are spread and you're looking up into the vagina. This would be the vaginal opening, the whole thing. This little membrane right here that looks different, and this one and different, and this one and different, and this one, this is the hymen. So in some cultures, when they do a test for virginity, this is what they're examining to see if the hymen is intact. So this one right here actually is the only one that would be abnormal. There should be some sort of opening because, like we said, the vagina, it has a mucous membrane on the inside. So that creates secretions that come out. Think of it as like if your nose didn't have holes at the end. Your nose runs occasionally and it makes a drainage, and that would be a problem if there was no way for that drainage to come out. So all of these are fairly normal except for number 2. So in cultures where they do virginity tests, which is terrible, but they would make sure that, like, say, you know, this person or this person or this person could still be a virgin, but this person or this person couldn't, which is absolute crap because some people are just born like this. Also, anytime you insert anything into the vagina, like the first time you wear a tampon or anything, it would open up the vaginal canal, so it would perforate that hymen. But so that's what the hymen is. Again, looks different in everyone, may or may not be present, born all sorts of which ways. That is very in your face, and I apologize. But the vulva is the collective name for all of these outside external structures in a female reproductive system. So the external female genitalia, all of it we call the vulva. Different parts that we'll talk about individually are the labia, the clitoris, and the perineum. So starting with the labia, you have females have 2 sets of labia. They have a labia majora, which are these outer, thicker, fattier folds. And then they have the labia minora, which are these tiny, thin little folds. So both of them are folds of skin that surround and protect the entrance to the vagina. So this would be the vaginal canal, the opening to the vagina. And as you see, this right here is the hymen, and it's saying it's torn, so it's perforated. So something has been inserted or has just been born this way. So labia majora are the outside fattier folds, more adipose tissue in them, whereas labia minora, these thin little folds, are just kind of skin tissue. Last 2 structures of the vulva, the clitoris and the perineum. So the clitoris is erectile tissue. So erectile tissue is any type of tissue that has the ability to fill with blood and get bigger. So engorge with blood and get larger. So in the male, this is the penis, and the female, this is the clitoris. So this right here is the clitoris. This is a fold of skin that protects, kind of covers and protects the clitoris. This right here is the clitoris itself. It's erectile tissue. It has tons and tons and tons of nerve endings, almost double the nerve endings in the head of the penis. And then the perineum is this piece of, not piece, it's not like a piece, this area, I'll say, of skin right here. It has its own name basically because during childbirth, it has the ability to tear and rip. Yeah, leave you with that. All right, and then the last structure that is specific to the female reproductive system are the mammary glands. So breast tissue has reproductive function only in females. 15 to 20 milk producing lobes. So each of these, like a little lobe. Remember, things in the body, sections of it, a lot of times we just call lobes, like your liver has lobes and your lungs have lobes. The cerebrum, your wrinkly part of your brain has lobes. So I think this kind of explains it better. So this is a lobe, that's a lobe, that's a lobe. And then each lobe has a little canal. So these all produce milk once a female, or when a female becomes pregnant, it starts producing. And then once they give birth, you start expelling or shooting out that milk to feed the baby. So makes the milk in each of these little lobes. And then the canal drains them down and they're stored here and then they can come out. So if you actually ever look at a nipple up close, there's not one hole opening in the nipple. There's lots of little openings, and it's because each of those goes to a different milk storage system and little canals to let the milk out. Areola is what we kind of think of as the nipple. It's the dark area that surrounds the nipple. Oh, that's tomorrow. And that's it. So that's it for female reproductive structures. Good job, guys. You did it. High five.